Our special guest is a pro at helping people develop mindfulness to improve both their emotional and intellectual wellness. Very few people realize that your happiness is related to your overall wellness. Our first guest has been a pharmacist for 20 years. She's a speaker, author of the best-selling book C3, Creating Conscious Connections, and a coach. She has learned the impact of gratitude and wants to help the world catch happiness. I'd like to give a warm welcome to Dr. Cyrina Bullard. Thank you so much for being with us, and how was your day going?
Hey, Jason, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here with you today. Thank you.
You're very welcome. I look forward to hearing all about you and your experiences. I'd like to start by asking, what made you want to become a pharmacist?
Well, actually, I'm the oldest of four children, and my father was a pharmacist. And originally, I thought I wanted to go to med school. Then I thought, I don't want to be married to my job. And so I went to pharmacy school, and it was a really great experience. I really enjoyed being a pharmacist.
So overall, when it comes to drugs, you know everything about them.
Well, I don't know of everything, but I've got resources to help me.
In your bio, you mentioned that you almost died 3 times. I saw a video just recently. Give us a little idea what happened to you and when this happened.
Well, the first brush with death, potential death, was when I was 11 years old. I was struck by lightning. I grew up in Florida where lightning storms are very popular there. And I was knocked to the ground by the lightning bolt. And I remember getting up, running as fast as I could. Felt like I was like the Bionic Woman, but moving in slow motion. And then I fell face forward into these bushes, and I still have a scar to remind me of that. But my father found me and I was non-responsive. My mom had to give me CPR and bring me back. And then we went to the emergency room and the doctor said, Cyrina, those flip-flops saved your life, because I had on rubber flip-flops, you know. And then when I was 25, I was with some girlfriends and we were all in New Zealand, and we decided to do something wild and crazy and go down the Kaituna. It was a 21-foot waterfall that we went down whitewater rafting. And I was the only one who fell out, and that was pushing me down. It was really scary, but luckily I resurfaced after I swallowed probably a gallon of water. But that was my second brush with death. And then the third, I was up in Vail, and this was in 2010, and I was riding my bicycle. I wish I could say I was mountain biking off a cliff, but no, I was on a path and I was on a road bike. And thank God I had on my helmet, because if I didn't, I wouldn't be here. But I have no memory of it, but apparently I hit soft sand and did basically somersaults while I was clipped in. And the first responder, I was non-responsive. I have no memory of 18 days of my life. I was in a coma for 18 days and in the hospital for 2.5 months. And they told my family that I wasn't going to be able to walk or talk or even take care of myself for the rest of my life. So I feel so thankful. And also they said I suffered a traumatic brain injury and a spinal cord injury. And they said that I wasn't going to be able to be a pharmacist anymore, but I went back to work after tons of rehab, and I was a pharmacist for 5 more years. And then I had a second head injury. So I don't know what's happening, but I just feel like, okay, I have to reinvent myself.
Overall, I thought about it when I watched your video. Every element is trying to get you: the fire, the water, the earth. It's like
about that way. That's true.
That cartoon, like that show on TV, all the elements combined. It's Captain Planet.
That's funny. I never thought of it that way. That's true.
But in your bio, I know you're super certified and you have so many different backgrounds, but you went to UC Berkeley and Yale. What certifications do you have? And tell us all about them. That's what helps all your clientele.
Well, you know, I have to share with you, after the second head injury, I was really frustrated. Like, okay, what am I supposed to do? And I was laying in bed and I was praying to God, and I was like, what am I supposed to do, God? And so this idea, Catch Happiness, came to mind. I was like, I love it. So I get out of bed and I get catchhappiness.com for $38. I couldn't believe it. And so I just thought, you know, this life is a gift. And because I've almost died so many times, we never know what tomorrow holds. So it's like, how can I help bring more happiness to our world? So I started doing research, and UC Berkeley offers a a free program, but then if you want to become certified, you obviously have to pay for that. And then also Yale does that as well. And it's a science of well-being with Yale. And then, actually when I was practicing pharmacy, my heart was heavy dispensing anti-anxiety meds to 15, 16-year-olds because what is life going to hold for their future? So I decided to become certified in what's called heart math, and they have over 25 years of empirical data or, data you can validate, helping to help decrease stress, cortisol levels or stress hormone, and helping decrease anxiety and bring more calmness, and people sleep better, decrease medications. I mean, it's incredible, the science behind it, because everything I like to do is science-backed information in general. And then I became what's called conversational intelligence certified, because I believe that many times our relationships and the conversations we have in them will dictate the outcomes in our lives. And then I became what's called a life mastery consultant. And I want to help people be very clear about their vision for their life. Because if you can see this vision and feel this vision, there's part of the brain called the reticular activating system. And what you think about, it's like the bouncer for the brain. And it kind of lets in different ideas and stuff when you maybe have opportunities. You're like, oh, this could help me out with this. So there's been a lot of different things that I've learned along the way, because this life is a gift and I want people to optimize their lives.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great. The backgrounds you have were something that most people don't experience. And I saw that you teach wellness tools. And in those tools, what are they and how do you use them?
Well, I feel very fortunate because I've been able to partner with a friend/colleague named Liz Rutledge, and she has a company called Sustainable 3. So we've kind of combined our companies and we call it Sustainable Happiness Together. And she's trained in mindfulness. So a lot of what we teach has to do with mindfulness. I talk about resilience because I'm heart math certified. So I teach about resilience tools that are proven to be effective, as well as happiness tools that we can introduce to our day, and visioning for our lives. And we're very conscious of, like, everybody's different. Some things may respond, some people might be like, yes, this is going to help bring more calm to my day. But I think we all need to be conscious of what we do in our day, and also to bring more calmness into our day, because we don't make good decisions when we're stressed, because when we're stressed, we've increased cortisol. When we increase cortisol, we have decreased prefrontal cortex axis, so we have decreased ability to think more clearly. But when we're more calm, we're able to have more access to make more logical decisions in our brain. So
exactly, I need more of that. After today, oh my Lord, it's like, what and how can we control our mindset? I was reading your bio about mindset and happiness. How do we control the mindset?
Well, many times, unfortunately, we as humans are not very nice to ourselves. We definitely beat ourselves up and give ourselves a hard time. But I think we need to pause that and say, no, would I ever be with friends who talk to me the way I'm talking to myself? Would I ever have a friend like that? Probably not. And I think that we need to be conscious of that and put a pause button on, okay, and have more gratitude. I think gratitude journaling, I know gratitude journaling is scientifically proven to help with happiness levels. But as far as being mindful about things, you can set an intention every day. Do things go exactly the way you think they're going to go? Probably not. But if you start your morning, I meditate every single morning. I call it my RPM, rest, pee, meditate. And I do it for 20 minutes and 20 seconds, because after the second head injury, I became very conscious of what can I do to help my brain. And meditation is one of those things, because it helps to increase BDNF, your brain-derived neurotropic factor, and helps bring more calmness. So you have to find what works for you. Some people, it's exercise, running, whatever it might be. How can you get rid of stress in your body and be conscious of what you're doing in your day? Because the choices you make in the minutes in your day will impact the outcome of your life, because it has a compounded effect.
And meditation, like you mentioned, every day I always meditate as well, with a little qigong and stretching and exercise. And it makes a difference. It's my routine, and I have to do it every day or I feel off. And the benefits of mindfulness, what are they? I know there's a lot of them, but Which ones are the primary ones?
Well, I mean, everybody's different. What you take away from it and what I take away from it might be two different things. But I think that there's, many times something happens and people can react or respond, and it's their choice. And I think we need to put the pause button. Okay, something irritating happened. If you just react right then, you're probably not going to use the best decision. But if you just pause, take the deep breath, because some people think it's woo woo saying, oh, breathe deeply, but there's a lot of science behind this, because we know we are the land of shallow breathers here in the United States, at least. And when we breathe shallow, we're stimulating what's called the sympathetic nervous system receptors. And these are more associated with anxiety feeling. But when we breathe deeper, we have more parasympathetic receptors within the deeper parts of our lungs. So that helps to bring more calmness. So there's science behind why we do this. And I think also with mindfulness, I like to reference a professor. Her name's Dr. Sonia Lubomirsky. And she has a pie chart that describes what brings happiness. And 40% of what her data suggests to bring happiness are our thoughts and actions. So we need to be mindful of our thoughts and mindful of our actions, because if we're not, we can lose control of our day. And maybe sometimes say, why did I say that? Why did I react like that? That's not what I meant. And people many times are like, why did I do that? So I think we need to be cautious of that.
And text messaging doesn't help either.
I do think obviously there's a place for that, but I also think that if you're going to have a conversation, it should be a verbal conversation.
Exactly. And I know people out there looking forward to your Winning Wellness Experience course. How do they take that, and what topics do you cover?
Well, I'm so excited about this because Liz and I created this course. And if you go to winningwellness.learnworlds.com, you can access it. And there are multiple classes on there. But I'm going to share with you guys a discount code for the Winning Wellness Experience bundle. And Liz and I, we talk about mindfulness, the science behind mindfulness, about resilience, about catching and spreading happiness, about also help to live a life of design, not one of default. And we also have 6 other people who are amazing. Amy Ippoliti, she's a yoga instructor, and she teaches yoga to help with anxiety. We have Rachel Muskoff, who's also mindfulness, who talks about being mindful of your body and, the exercise you do or don't do. Nakia Lapshire, she's a chef, and she graduated from Johnson & Wales, and she talks about sustainable food and different things you can make and to create happiness with creating foods with your family and your friends. We also have another person who's a contributor. Her name's Catherine Peters. I like to call her the cat nap queen. And she talks about the power behind napping and the science behind napping and how this can help us. We've got Gina Pickett. She's the CEO of The Ultimate Game of Life, and she talks about the 9 environments of you, which is an incredible resource because 24/7 we're being impacted by our environments, and how can we optimize them? And then we have Jeff Schwartz, who's a lawyer in New York, and he talks about how you can turn creativity and turning challenges to opportunities, because we all have different challenges. But how can we take those challenges, 1, learn from them, and 2, create opportunities out of them?
That's a perfect team. You got everyone there you need.
We're so excited about the people that we have on our, courses too. But the Winning Wellness Experience bundle is the one I'm going to give a discount to, which has everything on it. And if you decide you want to purchase it, when you're purchasing it, you go to the promo code and put in wellness, all capital letters, 50, and you'll get $50 off the program. So wellness 50. And so I'm super excited about it because this life is a gift, and how can we optimize it? And I think we've got a huge spectrum of tools within. I know we have a huge spectrum of tools in this course for people.
That's a great. And everybody listening, in the bio section, we'll post Wellness 50 so that you'll be able to access that and be able to get that course. Awesome. And be one step closer to success, right? In your bio, you talk about BNF. What is BNF and how does that work?
Okay, so it's what's called brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And what's interesting is I never even learned about this in pharmacy school. I have my doctorate in pharmacy. I thought, I would have learned about this, but no. I actually learned about it after my first head injury, I was referred to this book called Spark, written by Dr. John Rady and Eric Hagerman. Have you read it?
I've heard of it, yeah, but I haven't read it yet.
Highly recommend it because it talks about exercise, how exercise helps with anxiety, depression, and also your cognition. And so when we exercise, we increase BDNF, your brain-derived neurotrophic factor, and also meditating, as I mentioned earlier. And this helps to create synapses within your brain. And, because as we have different, I don't know, like me having 2 brain injuries, I need to try to optimize my brain health by what my actions and also what I eat and my mindset too. So BDNF is basically a chemical produced in our brain that can help regenerate synapses in between different neurons.
And that's definitely important. I never heard of it either. And I actually have an exercise physiology background, and I never heard of that BNF. But I'm glad you have that in your course. Everyone needs to take part in that. What is the most common issue you find in your practice?
Well, I would say that right now, it's interesting because with COVID, it's introduced a lot of different elements. And one, I think that people are being more real, like saying, hey, this is hard, dealing with the not having the connections like we used to have we still connect with people, but on a smaller level. And I think that that's been really hard for people right now. And anxiety about the future of when is this going to come to an end? When, are things going to get back to the normal? And who knows what's going to happen?
And that's important. Hopefully normal comes very soon because I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it would be really nice. But I think, we as a world need to work together and try to come to common ground that we are all actively taking care of ourselves and being conscious of the people around us.
And for people listening and watching, what is your most common client and what kind of client should be reaching out to you?
Well, I would say the most common client would be people who deal with anxiety, because I do a lot with resilience and help bring more calmness. And we've also, I've talked to different companies and as far as team building and things of that nature. And we've worked with the school system as well and teaching mindfulness to children. Because I think that these are, we have got a spectrum of things that we work with. But I would say that anyone who is wanting to have tools to be able to be conscious in their day and help bring more happiness to their lives in a mindful way would be somebody. But yeah, that's what I don't know that there's a specific type of person because there's all different types of people we work with.
I wish your course was available when I was a kid because I dealt with social anxiety for a very long time. I've been managing it really well as an adult, but it definitely would have helped. For kids as well as adults that are out there listening with anxiety, definitely got to get the assistance if you are struggling. That's really important.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. I'd like to make sure that people that I point out, these tools are great and they are science-based, but I'm not a physician and neither is Liz, and that people need to listen to their bodies, be connected with their bodies. And if they feel they need help, please get the help, because whether it's counseling or medication, whatever it might be, I am very thankful that we have medication. I do feel like we're an over-prescribed society. We have too many medications in general, but I just feel like we thankfully have them, but I also feel like people need to also implement different tools in their lives to help optimize.
Absolutely. And in a question that I have for you, for all my clients or for all the people I work with, I always ask them, if you were to write the definition of total wellness, what would that be?
Wellness for me would be to have a conscious connection with your body, with your environment, with nature, your mind, your spirit, and with others. Because many times we don't connect with ourselves. And I think having that conscious connection is important.
When we come back, we'll learn more about Dr. Cyrina Bullard's business and learn more about her book. We are back here with Dr. Cyrina Bullard talking about the importance and mindset and happiness. How did you craft the perfect vision for life?
Well, I don't know that it's perfect. I do think the reality is that you're hopefully always trying to improve yourself. And I feel like I have been so fortunate and blessed to have an amazing, loving family and friends. And I'm also very excited. I actually met a boyfriend during COVID, which is funny, I'm like, and he's awesome. And so out of that bad thing came something wonderful. And, I think that we're always recreating ourselves. And as far as for the future, like a vision for my life, I have different things that I would like to have, but I always check in with myself and make sure, okay, is this still the path that I want to be on? Does this feel right? And, things can always shift and change.
It's amazing what happens with COVID, right?
Yeah, I was shocked because I hadn't dated anyone in 5 years. And I thought, I met him during COVID. This is crazy. So
congratulations. Hope that works out really well for you.
Thank you. I have a good feeling about it.
That's good. He's probably listening. And the question I have is, does anxiety, depression, stress affect your mindset?
Definitely. It's interesting because we're learning more. I mean, the brain is an incredible part of our bodies, and we don't know everything about it, but we do know that when we're depressed, we basically it can alter our chemicals within our bodies. And also same thing, when we're having anxiety, like I said, I mentioned about cortisol, that decreases our ability to think clearly, and it can affect our physiology on many different ways. And, I don't know if you've ever seen this data, but they said, with loneliness, which can cause depression, they say loneliness is as bad for us as smoking. I'm like, wow, so I think that people need to be real honest with themselves and get in touch with themselves and think, what is it that will help me live my best life? And I really feel like we're learning more and more about our brains, and we know that our thoughts can impact our chemistry. And I joke because I always say I'd like to encourage a daily dose of happiness. And DOSE is an acronym. The D stands for dopamine, O for oxytocin, S for serotonin, and E for endorphins. Because these are the chemicals that are produced when we're happy, which have a positive physiological effect. And we know when we're happy, we're more productive, creative, and have better physical and mental health. So I think that it's worth the time and energy to make that investment to see what brings you happiness.
It's absolutely true. And in your book, I know you explain a lot about happiness and mindset. So tell us about your book, C3, Creating Conscious Connections. And what is it about, and where can we buy it?
Okay, well, here's what the book looks like, okay? And it's the cover. I'll share with you the meaning behind it in just a minute. But the book it's kind of partially an autobiography, because I talk about my 3 times almost dying and how I really became conscious of this life being a gift. And at the end of each chapter are kind of takeaways from that chapter. And it says like, takeaway lessons from this chapter and different things, that I try to point out that I think are important to take away from that chapter. And I also talk about science. And are you familiar with epigenetics, Jason?
I've heard a little bit about it, but not too familiar.
Well, it's fascinating to me because we used to think our DNA was our destiny. We now know that's not the truth, because our environments impact the expression of our DNA. We all have different genes that are on or off, and if we're in certain relationships, if we're stressed out at work, if we're don't get enough sleep, don't eat properly, or we've got chemicals around us, this all impacts impacts our physiology and can turn on certain genes that are expressed or not. And so I think that we need to be conscious of what we invite into our day, because there's certain people that are like vampires and other people who are giving, I mean, it's like, what toxicity are you going to allow in your life? Obviously, we can't control whether we've got fumes in the air, but we can control what we eat. We can control if we do or do not do exercise. There's so many different things. And in the book, I talk about that. And I also talk about the connections with general happiness and the different people that I've learned from that have really introduced fundamental things to me that I feel I use on a daily basis to help me live my best life.
That's perfect. Everyone listening out there, please check out the book. And where can we buy this? On your website? What site can we buy this from?
Well, if you go to creatingconsciousconnections.com, you can click on buy the paperback or the ebook now, and the audiobook will be out soon. And it's also on Amazon. But if you click on it, it takes you to Amazon. But hopefully the audiobook will be here soon. And I'm excited about that.
For everybody that wants to listen while they drive and be experienced, and that'd be a great tool for an audiobook. But also the paperback is a great way to stimulate your brain as well.
Yeah, definitely.
What is your daily wellness routine?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I meditate every single morning. I've been doing that now for 6 years. And my 20 minutes and 20 seconds every morning. And many times I wake up, at 4 a.m. and just meditate. And sometimes I'll go back or just start working. It just depends. But I also have a gratitude journal. And I think that's huge, because there's some days that are not very easy, that are frustrating. But I have gratitude for the fact that I can walk, that I can talk, and that, there was a time when my ability to walk, talk, or even feed myself was taken away. And these are gifts. And I think many of us take them for granted. And I exercise quite a bit. And that's a big thing for me. And I smile a lot too, because what's fascinating is that our brain doesn't know whether it's a real smile or a fake smile. So I encourage people to smile, because you start producing positive chemicals, even if you got to force it to say, okay, I'm going to make myself smile, because it's fascinating with our brain, how it works. And then also, I check in with myself and make sure I've got clarity about what my goals are, at least like once or twice a month, because sometimes you forget to do that.
And when you meditate, that 20 minutes and 20 seconds, is there a reason why you do 20 minutes and 20 seconds, or just curious?
2020 and COVID, I did it because I've always done it. I did it because seeing 2020, but now it has a different, like when you think 2020, you think of COVID. So, but I feel, fortunate. But, actually, Jason, can I share with you the meaning about the cover of my book?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, mostly.
Fascinating to me. So I was on a flight in 2019 on the way back from California, and I met this gentleman, really nice guy. And one thing leads to another. He asked me on a date. We go on a date, no chemistry, but nice guy. And he shared with me that his son was an artist. And so one thing leads to another. And I end up hiring his son to do the book cover.
Nice.
And the meaning about it is, well, here, can you see that there's a compass right there? Kind of, there's a compass there. So it's like, what path will your life take? There's 3 circuits, which can be your connection, your mind, body, spirit, the Holy Trinity, me almost dying 3 times, whatever you want, because there's connections with 3, And then within the light bulb, the filaments are very detailed, because rewiring of my brain. Then there's a window there that's like looking out on your life and where it's going to go. And as I said, there was a compass there, but the light bulb's on a world globe. So that's like, where will your path lead you? And I think these are all really interesting questions to ask ourselves, because if we're not conscious of like what our moments hold, they have a compound effect. So how can we optimize them?
Very symbolic, that's for sure. That's a great cover. And To put a lot of effort and thought into that. That's excellent cover.
Yeah, I feel very fortunate to have met. I mean, didn't work out with the guy and I, but his son was an awesome artist. I was like, oh, this is great.
I always say somewhat bad things or not so good things always lead to a good thing. So that's the key.
Yeah, definitely.
And you did mention before that your training is backed by science, but what type of science is it? Like, what category would you consider it to be?
Well, I mean, you can look at it in many different ways. You can look at it as like physiological science, psychological science. I mean, because there's different chemicals that are produced in our brain for different experiences that we have. And there's a lot of science as far as like the psychologist and what they say is beneficial through their data. And everybody's different. I don't know what's going to work for you, Jason. I don't know what's going to work for Susie or Joe, but I just know that the more tools you have in your tool belt, the better off you can be, because you can find something that works for you and be conscious of that. I think that's important.
Exactly. And for our listeners out there, really appreciate everyone listening. And is there anything else that you'd like to tell our listeners? And where can we hire you if we want to hire you for any type of the courses you have or training or experience?
Awesome. Well, if you go to the winningwellness.learnworlds.com, there'll be our contact information in there. And also at catchhappiness.com, there's contact information in there. And I would like to say to people, make sure that when you're getting stressed, to check in, take those deep breaths, and allow yourself not to react, more respond, because I think many times we're so busy, we're running from one thing to the next. But try to be present for this life, because we don't know what tomorrow holds. And almost dying 3 times makes me very conscious of being present. I'm not always successful. I am human, but I am very conscious of that. And I would say try to be present and allow yourself to take those deep breaths and enjoy this journey.
And absolutely, everyone listening right now, take a deep breath in for 5 seconds and out for 5 seconds. That's great. Everyone always says to me, take a deep breath. I always have to remind myself, take a deep breath. And I greatly appreciate all your wisdom and time today. All your information will be on the show bio and the details of the podcast. And it's been an awesome time having you on the show. And thank you so much for joining us, and have a great fit day.
Thank you, Jason. I really enjoyed being here.
Very welcome. Thank you.
But thank you so much, Cyrina, for sharing your story with us, as well as your business. The Body Express Wellness Solution tip is take some time for yourself. Sit back and relax. Take 10 minutes a day and practice gratitude. Practice meditation. But thank you very much for watching and listening. Please like, share, and subscribe, and your support is greatly appreciated. I will see you next time, and have a great fit day. Take care.